long before borders were drawn, before names were written into memory, before maps attempted to define space. This land was already shaped by human struggle, by movement, by conflict, and by survival. In the year 1400, the Americas were not empty. They were not untouched wilderness. They were inhabited by millions of people, spread across forests, mountains, valleys, rivers, and wide open plains. People lived where the land allowed them to live, where water could be found, where animals could be hunted, where the soil offered something, even if only briefly. There were no nations as we understand them today. No borders marked in lines. No flags raised above land. No written laws to define belonging. Only communities. Communities formed by survival. Communities shaped by environment. And communities separated by fear, by distance, and by competition for resources. The land itself was unforgiving. Dense forests blocked movement and vision. Thick roots, uneven ground, slowed every step. Fog settled heavily between the trees. Smoke from constant fires mixed with it, blurring direction, blurring distance, and blurring safety. There were no roads, no permanent paths carved into the earth, only repeated footsteps. Steps taken again and again, slowly carving memory into the land, rather than stone. People lived close together, not by choice, but by necessity. Huts were built from wood, mud, and animal skin. Shelters meant to protect, not to last. Smoke filled the air at all hours. It clung to clothing. It settled into lungs. It blurred the inside of every space. Tools lay scattered on dirt floors. Nothing stored neatly. Everything ready to be used again. Privacy was unknown. Silence was rare. Comfort was temporary. Life was not designed for growth. It was not built around progress. It was designed for endurance, for lasting one more day, for surviving one more season. Every day required labor. There were no days without work. Men hunted with stone weapons, walking long distances, often returning with nothing. Failure was common. Success was uncertain.
Long before borders were drawn, before names were written, before maps existed, this land was already occupied by human struggle. In the year 1400, the Americas were not empty. They were home to millions of people spread across forests, mountains, rivers, and plains. There were no nations as we understand them today, only communities, connected by survival and divided by scarcity. The land was harsh: dense forests, uneven ground, fog mixing with smoke from constant fires. There were no roads, no clear paths, only movement shaped by memory and necessity. People lived close together. Homes were built from wood, mud, and animal skin. Smoke filled the air. Tools lay scattered on dirt floors. Privacy did not exist. Comfort was rare. Life was not organized around progress. It revolved around endurance. Every day demanded labor. Men hunted with stone weapons, never certain of success. Women prepared food on the ground, aware that tomorrow might bring less. Children learned work before play. Water, wood, and food were carried slowly, repeatedly. Survival was routine. Rest was temporary. When resources became scarce, pressure followed. Conversations grew quiet. Eyes watched the forest, listening for movement, human or animal. Conflict did not begin with strategy. It emerged from fear. Weapons were simple: stone, wood, bone. Hands shook as markings were applied to faces, not for ceremony, but for recognition. Violence was sudden and unorganized. Bodies collided. Footing slipped on mud and bloodless ground. There were no formations, no commands, only instinct. When it ended, nothing felt resolved. Bodies remained where they fell. Survivors sat silently. Women cried quietly so the sound would not travel. Children stared, trying to understand what had just become normal. Victory brought no relief, only fewer people. In some regions, power became structured. Large stone cities rose. Authority organized violence instead of eliminating it. Soldiers watched civilians closely. Movement was controlled. Obedience was expected, not through spectacle, but through routine. Prisoners waited without knowing when waiting would end. Violence no longer needed anger. It became procedural. Far from cities, empires demanded labor. Workers carried heavy loads up mountain paths, breathing thin air, bodies bent forward by weight and command. There was no finish line, only continuation. Communities vanished. Settlements burned. Tools were left behind, still useful, but without hands to use them. The land reclaimed what was abandoned, and beyond the land, the ocean waited. Dark water under heavy clouds, waves without witnesses, no ships visible yet, but movement already underway. Change does not always announce itself. By the end of 1400, the land was marked by exhaustion, by conflict, by absence. Footprints faded into mud. Weapons lay discarded. Silence replaced voices. The conflicts of this era did not end history here. They prepared it. What followed would redefine this land forever,